She started her career as a teen as a ballet dancer at Radio City Music Hall. Next up was Broadway, and then it was on to comedy and TV, where she landed the role that would make her famous, that of Rhoda Morgenstern on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. And then The Rhoda Show. Since then, there have been other series, movies, both on the big and small screen, theater, and her own one-woman tour de force stage performance as Golda Meir in Golda's Balcony. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on this episode of Interviews, our conversation with Golden Globe and four-time Emmy Award winner, TV legend, Valerie Harper. Do you ever look at your career and wish that the milestone roles, the big parts that you played, came at a different point?
I can't say that I have ever had that thought, Ernie, but that's an interesting one. I think life unfolds. It's like the old saying, life is what happens on the way to your plans.
Yeah.
So I guess, like most people, when you get older, you say, oh, I wish I knew that then. But you can't.
Right.
And you don't. So what we've really got, I don't even look to the future so much as right now. This is the magic. This is the moment not to miss, the one we're in right now. So I cannot say that I would have, what would I have wanted to do differently? No, I think I learned how to act before I got my television break, which came when in my late 20s. I was almost 30 when I got the Rhoda role. So, milestones? Yeah. I don't think so. No, can't think of anything at the moment.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? It's a wonderful question.
Do you then make career plans? Are there things you look at your career and say, I need to do this? Or, as you said, you take what comes and make the most of it?
Oh, well, what you do is you're always at choice in the matter. You know, when scripts come in, I've turned down things that I thought were horrible or sexist or not appropriate. But it's, as an actor, you are constantly in the place of, it's not insecurity, it's not knowingness, not knowing what's coming. In the past years, since I met my husband, we're together, since 1979 now. Tony has been wonderful because he has created things for me to do, such as there was a one-woman show about Pearl S. Buck that I co-wrote, and that was wonderful because he said, you know, Valerie, we should have a one-woman show for you, so you have it in your back pocket if you're not doing TV or something else. And as women age, there's an expectation that things aren't going to be as good. So I was able to move to theater, because I'd started in theater.
Right.
And I wasn't a glamour doll. They have it tough. They really do, because that whole thing of shelf life. Poor women. Look at the plastic surgery industry, the makeup industry, the hair color industry. The only woman on prime time, I don't know if the show's still on, is with her natural color hair of a certain age, is Tyne Daly. You know?
Yeah.
And now her hair's brown again. She's on Broadway in a wonderful play with Cynthia Nixon. So, you know what I mean? So there is a good thing about, as a young person, you plan. I remember working very hard in acting class in my preparation. I always kind of knew that if I was prepared, when the opportunity knocked, I could rise to the occasion. Right. Because I don't think opportunity knocks but once. I think it knocks the door down.
Really?
We're just not prepared for it, or, you know, we're in a place in our lives. You make all kinds of choices. And I must say to you, you're talking about milestones and career moves and planning. Show business is not my life. My life is my life. I love acting. I love doing it. I love working in the theater or in film or in television. And you're always looking to what's the next thing I'm going to do. But I cannot tell you that I had a master plan. I know, this is interesting. Yeah, I knew I'd get to your answer if we talked long enough. My master plan was to be a ballerina.
Right, I was going to ask you about that.
If I chose to, I could look at myself as a failed ballerina, as a failure because I didn't But you see, life took me another way.
But you mentioned acting class then.
Yes.
And so I wonder, okay, you would start off to be a dancer, and you danced at
Yes.
Radio City and all of that.
And then Broadway shows, yeah.
So when did you decide I need acting also, as opposed to having a dance career?
Well, in my second show, the first show was Little Avner,
Yeah.
and it was so incredible because I've been training for the ballet, and here was this loud, wonderful music and joy and laughs, and oh my God, I said, this is great. This might be for me. I don't know. Could I do this? I was very afraid. I had been on a track of dance, 10 classes a week, and, you know, just really committed to it. So in the second show I did was called Take Me Along with Jackie Gleason and Walter Pidgeon, a wonderful classic old-time movie star. It was Awe Wilderness set to music. Bobby Morse was in it. He was the juvenile. Yeah, that tells you. It was 1959. And there was an actor named Jim Cresson. I will thank him to this day. He said, Valerie, you just want to keep dancing? I said, well, I'm so thrilled to be on Broadway. I was, 18, 19. This was great. And he said, I have a great acting teacher. You should go to acting class. So I did. And that was a turning point.
Wow.
That, Ernie, was when I began to, think about the word and speaking and playwriting and learning about, and it's so funny that now, to have grown up in my life or grown older, and now to be doing a William Gibson play, Golda's Balcony was written by William Gibson. I've just been on the tour I've completed with that production. I was working on Miracle Worker and Two for the Seesaw in acting class.
Yeah.
By William Gibson in the 60s. So I can't tell you how thrilling that is. And he is still just sharp as a tack.
Before we leave Broadway behind,
yes.
You did a show with Lucille Ball.
I sure did.
Wildcats.
Yeah, Jackie Gleason, Lucille Ball, Andy Griffith. I didn't open with it. It was called Destry Rides Again. Right. And then the show I did with Lucy was called Wildcat.
Right. Now, when you do a show like that with a star like that at your point in your career you were at, do you get to learn from them, or
sure.
is there a separation of they're the star, you're in the dance or the chorus?
Oh, no, but you
performing?
watch.
Yeah.
You're on stage with them. You see what they do. You are delighted by them. You feel their energy. You see how exhausted they are, and then they go on stage. There's many lessons you learn that you don't know you're learning.
Yeah.
Do you know how life is? Just observation. I think it's Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, or maybe Thoreau, who said, lead the exemplary life. Don't go around telling people what to do. Lead an exemplary.
Right.
So I think I had wonderful examples in these people. Gosh, when you think back on the people that I have worked with, and in those early days, it was Lucy and Jackie, Andy Griffith. Then it was Orson Bean, who was later on Medicine Woman, many, many years later, and Sidney Chaplin, a wonderful singer-actor who was Charlie Chaplin's son. Carol Lawrence was in those shows. I think of all the stars.
When did you make the decision to move toward television? How did that work? And I ask that because I think oftentimes there's a Broadway sense that this is theater.
Yes.
And that's television. But in there was a transition for you.
Yes, and that sort of has changed because people...
Right, they go back and forth
sometimes
a lot more.
now you make some money so that you can do Broadway. There are some people that were from the theater and never leave it. Al Pacino is one, who has a gigantic film career, but he's such a wonderful actor. I think... state the question just a little bit again.
At the point that you thought to move from theater into television.
It was, I was married at the time, and he said, let's go to the coast and see if we can get work there. And I had been working in Second City and working on Viola Spolin's theater games, which are wonderful exercises to free you. So I'd had I wouldn't say classic in the sense of Shakespeare, but classic in the terms of breaking down a script, acting class, studying lines, reading playwrights. Improvisation is completely trusting the fellow player and allowing something to occur in front of an audience. It's a high-wire act, it can be. And supposedly to be funny, but you're not going for funny. But it turns out to be funny because human beings are innately funny, and that's the key to Second City and then later Story Theater. So I had this wonderful background, and I developed, I guess, a comedy sense. And I always liked to laugh, Ernie. You know, it's funny when you say comedian or drama. Those classifications, I think, are maybe inaccurate. I think it's a person, an actor, with or without a sense of humor. I think that might be the dividing, because Meryl Streep is as dramatic as you can get, and she can be hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about whether you have that in you to free up your sense of humor in front of people and not being afraid to fall on your face. So the move to the West Coast was looking for work, and we thought, well, yeah, maybe we'll work in television or whatever. And I didn't have a snob appeal about it. I loved the Dick Van Dyke Show. So I was in California a very short period, like maybe a year, and that audition came up.
Yeah.
So it was really playing Rhoda was a... But I'd had so much theater work.
Yeah.
I had 13 years on the stage.
Now,
summer stock thing, not huge. Broadway, as a chorus dancer, as a bit player, off-Broadway, improvising. I'd done a lot of work, so I was, as I told you, I had something to bring to market, rather than just, you know, a look or...
all these years later, we look back at the Mary Tyler Moore Show as a classic. You know, that's the situation comedy. When you walk in initially on something that's going to become that big, was there a sense at the start that it was something unique?
No, not to me. It was my first show.
Was this the show you're auditioning
Well, I mean,
for?
I'd done other little shows. I was so thrilled to get one day on something. Mayberry RFD, my girlfriend Arlene Galanco, who had been she said, "Val, honey, they're reading for somebody. Come on down and read. Maybe you'll get it." And that was a day's work. I was thrilled. I was looking at the cameras, learning my way around. But no, I think the other actors knew it was wonderful. But you don't know you're in a classic.
Yeah.
You can't.
When does that hit?
It's like yeast. It's got to rise, you know?
Yeah, but when do you know the point when you looked at it and thought, wow, we really did make something special here? Is there that moment?
I think it was later. It began to be, well, when we started winning Emmys was lovely, but it's the staying power.
Yeah.
It's only time will tell if that piece of furniture is going to have the patina.
Right.
You can't say, oh, this is going to have patina. You just go, I mean, it does anyway. That's not a good analogy. We were having Cloris would say to me, oh, this is hilarious, Valerie, look at this. And she said, this is so good. And I felt, as a stage actress, incumbent upon me to bring more to the page, to thrill the writers when they came down. We try to come up with funny things to do, using their lines, but putting some English on the ball, as it were. In other words, don't just do the line as written, try to put some other meaning behind it. Same words, but an interesting take on it, or doing some funny eating grapes while I'm doing it, or, you know, you just find behavior and things, and that was fun. And I knew the material was good. I just did. But we were, you know, not a big hit right away.
Well, true or false, the very first scene with Mary and Rhoda, like cleaning the apartment, the get out of my apartment.
Sure, cleaning the windows.
It was shot, and there was no reaction from the audience, and you guys shot it a second time, and then it got a response, correct?
That's correct. Yes, not just that scene, the whole show, the people weren't laughing. So in those days, the great thing was the network said, okay, we like this show, let's try it again. And Jim and Alan changed something. They changed one line that an example of that whole, they went back and I think they wrote over the weekend, or about 3 days, and then we filmed again on a Friday, and everyone was laughing. Everyone loved Mary from Dick Van Dyke. And I think there was a sense that here's this woman coming in and treating her terribly. They put in a line that was suggested by, not the line, but by our script supervisor, Marge Mullen. She's the woman behind the scenes who keeps the script straight and helps. It's a key position on any film, and certainly on a 3-camera show like the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And she said, you know what? Have Bess like her. that gives the audience permission.
Phyllis's young daughter. For
Yes.
for those few people who might not know.
And she says, who was that? Mary says, and Phyllis says, no one. That dumb, awful Rhoda. And that dumb, awful girl. And then Beth says, I like Aunt Rhoda. She's not your aunt. See, that's all they had to do, was to let Phyllis, this sort of pompous, fuss budget.
Yeah.
And the kid was 8 or 9. And children and dogs. So Rhoda couldn't have been all bad, which was a very interesting way to give exposition about characters. And then I was supposed to be her thorn in Mary's side, but the way it worked out, they started writing me and Mary as a friend. I pushed her. I was always saying, I got to get this shiksa moving. That's a non-Jewish girl. I'm from New York. I got to get her moving. So that was always what I used. I got to straighten her out. She may have a body that I envy, and she may have a great career where I have a job, but I'm from the Big Apple.
Right.
and I'm street smart. That was kind of what it was. So I think they moved it more to us being friends. And then the clash was between Phyllis and Rhoda vying for Mary, which was funny.
Let me zip you ahead then.
Please.
4 years later, somebody has decided Rhoda's going to have a spinoff.
The first year they said it to me, and I thought I was being fired. Freddie Silverman, we're going to spin you off. And I went, oh, God, okay.
As
and then
an
I went and
actress,
asked somebody. They said, no, that means create
That's
another
good.
series.
Yeah.
No, I didn't want to go.
See, I was going to say, you've got the comfort of by that point, a strong hit show, and they're going
Well, this was the first year. I didn't want to go anywhere.
But
I said,
by the fourth year,
yeah,
they're going to push you off now, and you're going to go off there, and you're going to have to hold your own show.
That's right.
As an actor, fearful at that point?
Yes. And I asked Mary, and Mary said, you don't want to be my sidekick all your life. And I said, but Mary, I don't know. And she said, listen. I said, what if it bombed? She said, if it bombed, you move back to Minneapolis.
Well, see,
You're
that's
already
a nice
beloved
safety.
here. It was great.
Yeah.
And better than that, that was very sweet of her, and she meant it. Both wonderful statements. It was Nancy Walker. I said, oh, I don't know. What if it fails? And she, Valerie, it's a job. Take it. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. As an actor, here's an opportunity, grab it. Don't start. Carl Reiner used to say that to young actors. Do everything. Just keep doing everything. And I've sort of done that until a point where you're, if you're handed a horrible, smutty script that is not even funny, I don't mind if it's prurient interest or even, but if it's just junk, you have to turn it down. You don't want your kids to see it. I don't.
There was a point in the Rhoda show where, Rhoda gets married, then Rhoda gets divorced. And a few years back, they were running the reruns, and I caught them on TV at that period in the show. And I had forgotten how poignant and touching and nicely written your transition through the divorce was. And I think people miss that when they look at the body of the show.
Beautifully written. Well, to see the show was written so wonderfully, and from life, and from people that Jim Brooks and Alan Burns knew. And they're the wonderful writers.
Yeah.
Great. So, yes, it did transition. And there came a point where Alan said, listen, we got to get you back together or we got to divorce you because the audience is getting so upset. It's upsetting to see, are they going to make it or are they not? Is this a comedy about going to the marriage counselor and then making it or not? And there were two reasons that I really think occurred. We were in the family hour, and where all in the family could do just about anything.
And did.
Yes. I mean, Joe had to sleep with a pajama top. I mean, it was kind of silly. So I think our guys, when I say that, I mean Jim Brooks, Alan Burns, all the Treva Silverman, this whole Ed Weinberger, brilliant comedy writers, David Lloyd, all of them were trying to write. Well, actually, that was onto the Rhoda show already. We're trying to write Mad About You. Do you remember that show?
Right. Yeah.
Which came a decade later. They wanted to write a real urban professional marriage, or not even professional. I was a window dresser. He ran a construction company, and it would have been funny because he was Italian and she was Jewish. But that was really a sideline. They were just two people who had found each other, and they wanted to write, and they got stopped so many times on things that they wanted to do. Yeah. So I think that was part of it. Also, Jim said Rhoda's comedy base was suddenly dissipated. He said, we're suddenly writing all these shows for Brenda. I said, that's okay. He said, no. I said, why not? He said, the show's name is Rhoda.
Right.
And she's Sadie married lady now. And some of her rhythm section, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the under thing, the generator of her was gone. Because unfortunately, success to a degree now, but much less. Marriage in the 70s was equated for women with success.
Right.
And I mean, not for all women. There were some smart women that knew different. It's important to be a human being, and then you can get married, or not.
Or not.
Get
It's
married
your
at
choice.
all. Or for men, exactly.
Yeah.
Less structures, less. It must be this way. So I think that was part of the problem, that her comedic base was weakened.
Right.
So then, as soon as Joe was out of the picture, in came Johnny Venture, that terrible lounge singer,
Right.
and all these bad dates. Howard Hesserman with the studs all over himself. Oh my God! What are they? Nailheads, not studs.
Yeah.
Nailhead studs are things that you put into the walls. No, nailhead shirt. Oh yeah,
Right.
it was great.
Eventually, of course, Rhoda ends its run, which I think a lot of people don't realize it went on longer than the Mary Tyler Moore Show then. Because Mary ended in, 77, and you guys went on?
Yeah, we went on. Oh, yes. So I was 10, I was 10 years in the character.
Yeah.
9 years. It's 1979.
Yeah.
So, so I was really with an MTM product longer than anyone. Oh, Ed Asner went on to do Lou Grant in another venue. Yeah.
Then you do Valerie. Yeah, little things in between. You got a good
Sure.
career in there, too.
18 movies.
Yeah, little things, just some movies.
Several features. Yeah. Sure, I was working all the time.
You do Valerie. Mm-hmm. You leave Valerie.
Yes.
What I didn't realize, too, looking back to prepare for this discussion, is that you won the lawsuit against the folks. We remember
a lot of money.
the lawsuit,
Yeah.
but we don't remember how it came out. But you
I
won.
Oh, absolutely, because it was a wrongful firing, and they banked on me not saying the truth. And if I was a young actress, I think my career could have been destroyed. But I'd been around for, years? Was it? I started in 70. Yeah, 16, 18 years.
Does that?
And the press went difficult. They've all been talking to me for 17 years. So it seemed very weird. And I didn't have a history of drinking or drugs or any of the reasons that really... So...
Is it hard then to see all that attention and press that was going on during that time?
At the time, but you want to know something? It's interesting you asked, Ernie. The very week that occurred and that I realized I would have to take court action. I mean, I didn't realize it right away. We were talking, and you're just upset, and you cannot believe it has occurred. It was such a blindsided thing. It was a corporate kind of decision. And partners who were had a very much hidden agenda. By the way, all those people are friends now. Again, honestly, talk about the burying the hatchet and not in each other.
Right.
Really, I've come to terms with everybody, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have this, that." That very week, Joan Rivers' husband committed suicide, and a plane crash headed for L.A. From Detroit to L.A. A plane, not a plane crash, a plane went down, and I said to Tony, my husband, I said, you're here inside. You're here beside me in bed. Christina's fine in the next room. So you weren't on that plane crash, and I'm not Joan Rivers to deal with such a terrible thing when Edgar took his life.
Right.
So
it puts it into perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was a group of individuals in our industry behaving terribly, and that happens.
Yeah.
And it was not the end of my career. In fact, I was suing NBC, and before you knew it, I was doing a movie called People Across the Lake. I did that movie June, July, and I faced them in court in September. But I said to my lawyer, "What's up?" He said, "No. What's happened is the blackballing." He said, "In a way, our case is weakened because they're not blackballing you."
Right.
But on the good side, the industry sees.
Yeah, what's going
wrong
on
with
here?
her?
Yeah.
How crazy and hard to work with if she's starring with Gerald McCraney in a movie for NBC.
Yeah.
The people I was suing. And then I faced them all in court. And I was friendly with them after, too.
Yeah. And you won.
I guess, and I won. I won big time. And as the show goes into syndication again, that's going to be a remuneration forever. So, yeah.
is it at that point that you put, like when we started our conversation and you said, my life is my life first and this is the work. Is it going through a period like that it helps you refocus that and say, you know what, this is just the business?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it isn't what happens to you in life, but how you handle it, I think. I really do. How you rise to the occasion. I was so moved by this. There was a long time ago, Scared Straight. Did you ever see that documentary?
Yeah.
Here were murderers taking many people's lives. One guy with one eye and scars, scaring the bejesus, or if I can say that, scaring the pants off these kids about what was going to be like inside. So suddenly their past became a contribution. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't say that to the families of the people they killed,
Right.
But I'm just saying that that's the way life is. And if we can live in that, whatever comes, turn it to the good, turn it to contribution rather than, and you can be, and I also, I think we get stuck in regret or resentment. Regret for things we should have done or would have done. Or I have a few of those. I remember when I won my Emmy, I wish I had acknowledged the director, Robert Moore, who was fabulous. It just slipped my mind. And I'm sure that happens to many people with the clock running. Yeah. And then they go, oh, God, I forgot. Like a poor little, I felt for Hilary Swank. When she
forgot her husband?
I really, those are those things. So, but that's so silly.
But you won 4 of them. So you got a chance to think
I did, and I took out an ad in the trades and spent a lot of money and bowed before him. Those are things, and he's gone now. So, Bob, did you hear that? It was you, baby.
And we all heard it, and all I can say is thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us.
It's my great pleasure to be here with you.
Valerie Harper.
To order a transcript, call 866-652-3378 or send $6.95 to the address on your screen. Please include the name of the guest.